My brother betrayed me for the family fortune, but my comeback ended his entire career. He stood there, bathed in the unforgiving glow of the Innovatech projection screen, a smirk plastered across his face, a triumphant glint in his eyes that seemed to catch the digital light. Lysander, his older brother, had just finished his presentation to the board, a masterful display of corporate jargon and meticulously curated financial projections, all designed to showcase his absolute and undeniable control over the sprawling family tech empire. The final slide, stark and irrefutable, declared the complete restructuring of their inherited assets, a cold, calculated move that effectively cut him out, leaving him with nothing but a symbolic pittance from a trust fund that barely covered his refined coffee habit. The room, filled with faces he'd known his entire life, distant cousins, longtime board members, family friends, was silent, a heavy quiet born of collective shock and, in some cases, thinly veiled pity directed his way. Lysander's voice, smooth as polished obsidian, echoed with an almost chilling finality. And so, the future of Innovatech is clear. Unified, strong, and under singular, decisive leadership. Lysander's gaze then found him, a predatory gleam in his eyes, daring him to react, to break, to show even a flicker of the devastation his brother expected. But he simply met that challenging stare, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. Lysander saw it, of course, that little curve, and his brow furrowed, a hairline crack appearing in his flawless facade. He dismissed it, no doubt, as denial, as the last desperate gasp of a broken man. He always underestimated his younger brother. He didn't know that the silence in that opulent room wasn't just the quiet of his perceived defeat, but the prelude to Lysander's undoing. Lysander truly believed he had won. He was so wrong. Looking back, the seeds of this profound conflict were sown long before that fateful board meeting. Growing up, the two brothers were always antithetical, two fundamental forces that simply could not align. Lysander was the charismatic whirlwind, the one who effortlessly commanded attention, his ambition a palpable force in any room, drawing people in with an almost magnetic pull. His presence was loud, his ideas grand, his energy boundless. The younger brother, Silas, by contrast, was the quiet observer, content to dissect complex algorithms and understand the hidden mechanics of systems, whether they were the intricate clockwork of an antique watch or the sprawling logic of a nascent operating system. His world was one of precise logic and elegant solutions, often found in the quiet hum of a server room or the focused intensity of a coding session. Their father, a brilliant but often distant visionary, had built Innovatech from a garage startup into a global tech behemoth, a testament to his own relentless drive and ingenuity. He saw potential in both of his sons, recognizing Lysander's innate leadership and Silas's profound intellectual depth, but he struggled deeply to reconcile Lysander's ruthless pragmatism with Silas's principled idealism. Silas's passion, even then, was ethical AI, technology designed not just to automate or accumulate, but to uplift, to empower, to operate with transparency and accountability, ensuring that human values were embedded at its very core. Lysander scoffed at it, openly labeling his younger brother's ethical stance as a weakness, a sentimental indulgence that had no place in the cutthroat, unforgiving world of business. Lysander fundamentally believed success justified any means, a philosophy that grated against Silas's very core, like a dissonant chord in a carefully composed symphony. His earliest memories of their strained relationship were punctuated by Lysander's casual disregard for rules, his small manipulations that, at the time, seemed harmless. He'd cheat at board games, not out of malice, but out of a sheer, almost unconscious drive to win, to always be on top. He'd twist words to his advantage, charmingly deflecting blame or subtly shifting narratives, always pushing boundaries, seeing them not as limits but as suggestions. There was the time Lysander convinced their father that Silas had broken a valuable prototype drone, when in fact, it had simply suffered a software glitch that Silas had already quietly fixed. Lysander's quick, confident lie had secured him an extra week of video game privileges while Silas spent a weekend grounded, silently observing his brother's easy victory. As they matured, these tendencies escalated, becoming more sophisticated, more ingrained. When their father's health began to decline, succumbing to a progressive neurological condition that slowly clouded his once brilliant mind, Lysander saw his opportunity. It was a subtle shift at first, almost imperceptible to anyone not meticulously attuned to the family dynamics. Lysander began to insinuate himself deeper into the company's complex corporate structure, leveraging his charm with key executives and board members, and cruelly, his father's fading lucidity. He would present documents for his father's signature during moments of particular confusion, gently guiding the elder man's hand, ensuring his mark landed in the right place. Silas, meanwhile, was focused on something else entirely, a vision that burned brightly within him. He had started his own small ethical AI startup, a passion project born of his unwavering conviction that technology could, and should, be a force for good in the world, not just a tool for profit. He poured his life savings, his every waking hour, his very essence into it, often working through the night in a small, rented office space that smelled perpetually of old coffee and nascent dreams. He believed it was the future, a necessary counterbalance to the unchecked power of traditional tech giants, a bulwark against the very tendencies Lysander embodied. His father, in his clearer moments, when the fog would briefly lift, had expressed quiet pride in his younger son's venture, a rare warmth in his fading eyes that sustained Silas through countless difficult nights. But he also worried, a deep, silent concern about his younger son's perceived naivete in the face of Lysander's rapidly growing, seemingly unstoppable influence. "Be careful, Silas," his father had once murmured, his voice faint, his eyes distant. "The world is not always fair. Sometimes, the quiet ones, they get overlooked." It was during this harrowing time, as his father's light dimmed and Lysander's star rose, that Silas began to notice anomalies. Small, seemingly insignificant discrepancies in financial reports that only someone with his peculiar affinity for data patterns would spot. Subtle shifts in corporate governance documents that seemed to subtly concentrate power. Decisions made behind closed doors that seemed to benefit Lysander's personal ventures more than Innovateca's overall health. His unique ability, his uncanny knack for spotting vulnerabilities in complex systems, whether they were lines of code, intricate corporate frameworks, or even human behavioral patterns, kicked in, almost like an unconscious reflex. He didn't actively set out to investigate his brother. It began as a mere intellectual curiosity, a pattern recognition exercise, a puzzle his mind instinctively sought to solve. But what he uncovered was deeply unsettling, a dark tapestry woven with threads of deceit. Lysander wasn't just leveraging his position, he was actively manipulating the will, diverting funds through convoluted pathways, and systematically restructuring Innovateca's labyrinthine network of subsidiaries to funnel assets into shell corporations he secretly controlled. He was systematically dismantling their father's legacy, piece by meticulously planned piece, for his own insatiable gain, all while their father lay vulnerable, his memory fading, his brilliance consumed by illness. This was his secret weapon. Not a physical object, not a hidden blade, but knowledge, meticulously acquired and carefully stored. His ethical AI work had given him an advanced, almost intuitive understanding of digital forensics and data security. He knew how to trace digital footprints, how to recover seemingly deleted files from the deepest recesses of a server, how to piece together fragmented information into an undeniable mosaic of truth. He understood the vulnerabilities of the very systems Lysander was so confidently exploiting, the backdoors and weak points that only someone who built such systems could truly comprehend. Every late night spent on his startup, poring over lines of code for Ikita's AI, was also a late night spent quietly observing, documenting, and archiving his brother's illicit activities. He built a secure, encrypted repository, a digital vault nestled deep within a decentralized network, for every single piece of evidence, incriminating emails, irrefutable transaction logs, surreptitiously recorded meeting minutes, chillingly candid phone calls, that painted a clear, damning picture of Lysander's illicit dealings. He knew, instinctively, that this wasn't just about his inheritance, not about personal financial loss. It was about protecting their father's true legacy, about ensuring that the family fortune, built on decades of innovation and integrity, wouldn't be irrevocably tainted by Lysander's corrosive avarice. He prepared for his brother's inevitable betrayal, not with anger, though a cold fury often simmered beneath his composed exterior, but with the cold, precise logic of a software architect anticipating a system crash. He knew Lysander's arrogance would be his downfall, his unchecked confidence blinding him to the very real dangers he courted, and Silas was patiently building the failsafe, line by line, bite by bite. After their father's passing, the charade intensified, Lysander's sense of invincibility growing with each passing day. Having secured what he believed was an ironclad will and a bulletproof corporate structure, Lysander began his ruthless campaign to crush his younger brother's burgeoning ethical AI startup. He saw Silas's small company, Ikita's AI, not as a genuine threat to his burgeoning empire. After all, what could a small, ethically minded firm do against the might of Innovatech? But as an annoying fly buzzing persistently around his newly acquired throne, an irritating reminder of his brother's existence. He used his considerable resources, both overt and covert, to try and strangle Ikita's AI in its infancy. Investors who had shown fervent interest suddenly pulled out, citing vague and suspiciously similar, unforeseen market shifts or realignments of portfolio strategy. Key talent he had painstakingly recruited, brilliant minds who believed in Ikita's mission, received suspiciously lucrative counteroffers from Innovatech, often accompanied by veiled threats about the uncertain, highly precarious future of Ikita's. Lysander tried to block their access to crucial cloud computing resources, to stifle their patent applications with endless legal challenges, to simply outspend and outmaneuver them at every turn, relying on the sheer weight of Innovatech's resources to drown the smaller firm. Lysander called him personally once, his voice dripping with condescension, a velvet glove over an iron fist. Silas, he'd purred, the name a casual dismissal, it's time to admit defeat. This ethical AI dream of yours? It's quaint, perhaps even charming, but it's not a business. Come back to Innovatech. I'll give you a token position, something where you can tinker with your little moral algorithms, far away from anything that actually matters, far from the real decisions. Lysander saw his younger brother's quiet focus, his deliberate lack of public retaliation, as an admission of weakness, a sign of a meek spirit. He believed Silas was simply retreating, licking his wounds in private, too naive to understand the true, brutal nature of power in the corporate world. But every attempt Lysander made to undermine him, every calculated legal maneuver, every whispered backroom deal, only strengthened Silas's resolve and, more importantly, provided him with more invaluable data. Lysander's arrogance was a perverse gift, blinding him to the truth. He grew bolder, more careless, convinced that he was untouchable, that his younger brother was too insignificant to pose any real threat. He assumed Silas was too preoccupied with the daily grind of survival, too desperate to keep Ikita's AI afloat, to notice his expanding, intricate web of deceit. He had no idea that for every move he made against Ikita's, Silas was silently, meticulously, gathering more evidence, strengthening his case, tightening the digital noose. While Lysander celebrated his perceived victories, hosting lavish parties in exclusive penthouses and giving glowing interviews about his grand, unified vision for Innovatech, Silas was working, relentlessly, tirelessly. His days were spent coding, refining Ikita's core algorithms, nurturing his small, dedicated team, and reassuring them that they would weather the storm, that their shared vision was worth fighting for. His nights, however, were dedicated to a different kind of architecture, a far darker one. He delved deeper into the financial labyrinth Lysander had created, a masterpiece of corporate malfeasance. He traced the money trails, a tangled web of transactions that spanned continents and multiple currencies. He uncovered the true beneficiaries of the shell corporations, revealing networks of offshore accounts and hidden trusts that were almost impossible to follow. He mapped the complex network of offshore accounts Lysander had established, each one a dead end for casual scrutiny, but an open book to his digital forensics tools. He discovered how Lysander had systematically undervalued Innovatech's core assets in the will's assessment, allowing him to acquire them for a mere fraction of their true worth, while simultaneously artificially inflating the value of his own distressed ventures and selling them to Innovatech at exorbitant prices, effectively double-dipping into the family fortune. It was a sophisticated web of fraud and embezzlement, meticulously designed to bypass any conventional scrutiny, a testament to Lysander's twisted genius. Silas wasn't just collecting evidence, he was building a narrative, a complete, undeniable story of betrayal and illicit gain. He cross-referenced public records with private digital communications he had intercepted, legally, of course, through the vulnerabilities he'd identified in the company's outdated internal communication systems, which Lysander, in his hubris, had neglected to update, deeming it an unnecessary expense. He prepared an interactive presentation, not just a static report, but a dynamic, real-time visualization of Lysander's corporate malfeasance. It was designed to be undeniable, self-explanatory, and utterly devastating in its clarity. He knew the profound power of a well-told story, especially when that story was backed by irrefutable, time-stamped data. He kept his head down, avoided public confrontations, and allowed Lysander to revel in his false sense of security, basking in the glow of his perceived triumph. He let his brother believe he had cornered him, that his silence was a sign of his capitulation, his quiet nature a fatal flaw. Lysander was so busy celebrating his win that he never saw the digital trap Silas was laying, piece by precise piece, right under his very nose, a silent, invisible assassin in the digital realm. The air in the Innovatech boardroom crackled with anticipation. It was the annual shareholders' meeting, the formal ratification of Lysander's restructured leadership, the crown jewel in his campaign. He had planned a lavish presentation, culminating in a public signing ceremony of the new corporate charter, cementing his total, undeniable control. The media were present, a phalanx of cameras flashing, eager to capture the image of the new titan of tech, the future of Innovatech incarnate. Lysander stood at the podium, a dazzling, almost theatrical smile on his face, beginning his address. Distinguished shareholders, esteemed colleagues, family, his eyes briefly met his younger brother's, a flicker of raw triumph, quickly masked by a practiced, magnanimous expression. Silas sat quietly at the long mahogany table, his tablet resting casually on his lap, his posture relaxed, almost deceptively so. No one noticed the faint, almost imperceptible glow emanating from its screen, or the small, discreet device plugged into the main projection system's auxiliary port by his foot, hidden beneath the table's elegant drape. Lysander reached the climax of his speech, his voice booming with self-assurance, filling the cavernous room. And so, today marks a new era for Innovatech. An era of unprecedented growth, singular vision, and, just as he was about to dramatically sign the new charter, a sudden, soft chime echoed through the room, a digital bell tolling a silent warning. The immense projection screen behind him, which had been proudly displaying a sleek Innovatech logo, flickered erratically. Then, it went dark. A collective gasp, like a sudden intake of breath, rippled through the stunned room. Lysander, momentarily flustered, his triumphant smile faltering, turned to the technical staff hovering nearby. "What is the meaning of this?" "Fix it, immediately," he demanded, his voice laced with uncharacteristic panic. But before anyone could react, before the technicians could even move, the screen flared to life again, not with the familiar Innovatech logo, but with a stark, simple title that hung in the air like a guillotine: Ikita's AI Presence, the Innovatech Restructuring, a True Account. A confused murmuring began, then shouts of disbelief and consternation. Lysander's face, initially contorted in annoyance, began to drain of color, turning to an ashen gray as the first graphs appeared on the screen. They were simple, elegant, and devastatingly clear. A real-time, interactive flow chart of funds, a digital river of money, showing how it siphoned from Innovatech's legitimate accounts into a dizzying array of shell corporations, then flowed back into Lysander's personal ventures at vastly inflated prices. Each transaction was timestamped, meticulously annotated with corresponding email exchanges, relevant parts of recorded phone calls highlighted in glowing red, and scanned documents bearing Lysander's undeniably forged signatures. Silas's voice, calm and clear, filled the suddenly silent room, amplified through the discreet microphone he'd activated, cutting through the stunned silence like a surgeon's scalpel. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you are witnessing is not a system error, but a system revelation. For the past year, he has been compiling a comprehensive digital audit of Innovatech's finances and corporate movements, particularly those initiated by Mr. Lysander Thorne." Panic, raw and unbridled, began to rise in Lysander's eyes, a desperate fear replacing his earlier arrogance. He lunged for the podium, knocking over a glass of water, shouting, "This is an outrage. A hack. A desperate smear campaign by a disgruntled brother." But as he spoke, his words futile against the digital onslaught, the screen responded to Silas's silent commands, zooming in on specific transactions, highlighting the discrepancies with stark clarity, revealing the intricate web of deceit with irrefutable precision. On the screen, a split-screen display materialized, showing a live feed of Lysander's personal bank accounts, revealing the enormous, shocking influx of funds from these illicit transactions, directly contradicting the meticulously crafted, fraudulent financial statements he had just presented. The room went absolutely silent, save for the frantic clicks of reporters' cameras, the low hum of the projector, and the occasional sharp intake of breath. Silas continued, his voice measured, logical, entirely devoid of emotion, a cold voice of reason. "The evidence you see before you details a systematic pattern of fraud, embezzlement, and a deliberate manipulation of our late father's will, designed specifically to disinherit his brother and seize sole control of Innovatech's assets for personal gain." Then came the final, crushing blow, the undeniable coup de grace. A video clip played, an encrypted recording Silas had painstakingly recovered from an old, forgotten server Lysander thought he had definitively wiped clean. It showed Lysander, speaking candidly, almost gloatingly, to a shadowy, unidentified figure, bragging about how he had pulled the wool over Dad's eyes, and how Silas was too busy playing with his ethical toys to notice the real game. The words hung in the air, damning and undeniable, echoing in the stunned silence of the boardroom. Lysander stood frozen at the podium, his face ashen, his usual composure utterly shattered, his carefully constructed persona crumbling into dust. His eyes darted frantically around the room, full of a desperate, cornered animal's fear. He looked at his younger brother, no longer with contempt or disdain, but with utter disbelief, realizing the full, terrifying extent of the trap he had so blindly walked into. Silas had not merely presented evidence, he had orchestrated a public, undeniable confession, delivered with the cold, surgical precision of a master tactician. The silence that followed was deafening, the kind that precedes a complete and utter collapse. Lysander was caught, exposed, and utterly ruined. The aftermath was swift and brutal for Lysander. The public reveal, captured by every major news outlet present, sent shockwaves through the financial world, reverberating far beyond the walls of the boardroom. Within hours, Innovatech's stock plummeted, wiping billions from its valuation, a digital avalanche of financial loss. Regulators and investigators descended upon the company like vultures, their interest piqued, their suspicions confirmed by the undeniable evidence Silas had presented. Lysander was immediately suspended from all duties, his personal assets frozen, and a full-scale investigation, both civil and criminal, was launched into his every corporate dealing. His carefully cultivated image of the charismatic, visionary leader crumbled into dust, replaced by screaming headlines of fraud, embezzlement, and betrayal. He was publicly disgraced, professionally ruined, and soon, facing a litany of civil lawsuits and criminal charges that would dog him for years. His entire career, meticulously built on a foundation of ruthless ambition, had imploded in a single, catastrophic moment. The family's reaction was a complex mix of profound shock, bitter disappointment, and a slow, dawning realization of the painful truth. Their father, who had been too ill to fully grasp the intricate complexities of Lysander's machinations before, was shown the evidence in his fleeting lucid moments. It brought him immense sorrow, a quiet, heartbreaking understanding of his elder son's true, corrupted nature, a legacy betrayed. He looked at Silas then, not with pity for his own suffering, but with a deep, weary gratitude, a silent acknowledgement of the justice delivered. Other family members, who had either been swayed by Lysander's effortless charm and charisma or simply too intimidated by his force of personality to question him, approached Silas with apologies, their faces etched with regret and shame. They hadn't wanted to believe it, had perhaps even actively avoided seeing it, but Silas's presentation left no room for doubt, no crevice for denial. The sheer volume and irrefutability of the digital evidence, presented with such calm authority and irrefutable logic, forced them to confront the ugly, inconvenient truth. There was no gloating on Silas's part, no triumphant dance of victory. Only a quiet, profound sense of justice, a deep relief that the truth had finally prevailed, shining a harsh light into the shadows Lysander had cast. The initial chaos eventually gave way to a painstaking process of corporate restructuring and, more importantly, healing. Innovatech, though wounded, its reputation sullied, was not beyond repair. Its core technology and talent remained strong, its foundational integrity still intact beneath Lysander's layers of corruption. With Lysander definitively removed, and with the renewed trust of the board and family members, Silas was asked to step in. It wasn't a position he had ever actively sought, his true passion lying in the quiet innovation of Ikita's AI, but it was a responsibility he knew he couldn't shirk, a moral imperative to protect his father's true legacy. He oversaw the painstaking cleanup, implementing new ethical guidelines, robust transparency protocols, and state-of-the-art security measures to prevent any future illicit dealings. It was a monumental task, but one he approached with the same methodical precision he applied to his code, a system architect redesigning a broken system from its very foundations. Months turned into a year, then another. Lysander's legal battles continued, a protracted, desperate fight against the overwhelming evidence, but the outcome was inevitable. His career was definitively over, his reputation was in tatters, a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms around the world. He became a cautionary tale, a ghost of a once powerful figure. Silas's ethical AI startup, Ikita's AI, which had weathered the storm, bruised but unbroken, began to flourish. The public exposure, though painful and born of scandal, had inadvertently brought it immense credibility, highlighting the very need for ethical technology. Investors and clients, now seeking truly ethical and transparent technological solutions in a post-scandal world, flocked to them. They secured major partnerships, their technology proving to be a genuine force for good, just as Silas had always envisioned, providing solutions for data privacy, bias detection, and algorithmic accountability. Today, his life is one of quiet purpose. He still leads Ikita's AI, guiding its growth with the unwavering principles he holds so dear, ensuring its technology continues to serve humanity. He also maintains a crucial seat on Innovatech's board, ensuring its path remains aligned with integrity and true innovation, a guardian of its renewed ethical compass. The family fortune, once a symbol of division and a tool for betrayal, is now being managed with complete transparency, with a significant portion directed towards philanthropic initiatives, particularly in ethical technology research and digital literacy, ensuring that technology serves all, not just a privileged few. Lysander is a shadow, a distant memory, a ghost of a past Silas has moved beyond, a wound that has healed into a scar. He sometimes wonders if Lysander ever truly understood what he had lost, not just the immense money or the intoxicating power, but the respect, the trust, the very essence of what it means to build something meaningful, something with lasting value beyond mere profit. His journey taught him a profound, indelible lesson, that true strength isn't found in the loudest declarations, in bombastic speeches or ruthless ambition, but in the quiet, unwavering commitment to one's principles. It's in the meticulous preparation, the patient observation, the relentless pursuit of truth, and the unyielding belief in its ultimate power. Because sometimes, the most effective justice is served not with a shout, not with a public confrontation, but with a meticulously crafted, undeniable truth, revealed at the precise moment it can inflict the most profound and lasting impact. The quiet ones, the ones who observe and analyze, who delve deep into the systems others overlook, often hold the most potent power, because they understand that while charisma and ruthlessness can win fleeting battles, integrity, foresight, and an unshakable adherence to truth ultimately win the war. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the quiet, overlooked person ended up having the most unexpected power? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of quiet strategy and ultimate justice, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for more tales that explore the hidden depths of human nature and technology.